Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full IT Welcome to Derry episode 1 video. It's meant to be a prequel series to the 2 IT movies, also connected to the wider Stephen King universe, like a lot of Stephen King stories are. So we'll break down all the Easter eggs and references, WTF moments as we go along. We will see how crazy they get with the wider Stephen King universe, like Dark Tower, God, Turtles, Crimson King. Don't worry if you haven't read The Dark Tower or watched the movie. We will talk about those Easter eggs as we go along. Generally, the series is meant to be relatively self-contained to the universe that they set up in the IT movies, the 2 IT movies, but they will get into some wider mythology because of the origin of Pennywise the Clown. They will tell the origin of the character from Todash Darkness and how he came to be known as Pennywise, why he chose the Pennywise identity eventually. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. If people do like the series and are down for it, I will continue doing episode videos for all the episodes this season. Like a lot of Stephen King stories, there are minor crossovers with other stories in universe. For example, Dick Hallorann from The Shining is part of the series during this part of the timeline. He's the bartender during the Shining movie, during the Shining story, who actually has the Shining ability himself. There will obviously have to be elements of the Dark Tower storyline, which is sort of like the thing that binds the Stephen King universe all together. It deals with like the overarching villains of the Stephen King universe. Mostly to explain the origin of the Deadlights and how Pennywise the Clown came to enter the main dimension. But if you didn't remember, it's the Muschiettis who made the movies that made the series, and they actually said the story, the season, is told in reverse, meaning we're dealing with at least 3 different appearances of Pennywise based on his 27-year cycles where he comes out of hibernation to feed. So the idea is that we start closer to the events of the movies in the 1962 period, there's the 1935 period, and the 1908 period, and then also probably the period showing millions of years ago when he crashed through dimensions from Todash Darkness to the main dimension. Most of the series draws from the interlude chapters in the journals that Mike is keeping during the movies because he's like the lore keeper of the Losers Club in the history of Derry, chronicling the history of Pennywise the Clown. One of the other big things that the series is revealing is how Pennywise the Clown, the entity that is Pennywise the Clown, became the town of Derry, like the town itself is part of him. And it's also one of the reasons why during IT Chapter 2, at the end of the story, when the losers actually kill Pennywise, perma-kill him, a large portion of the town collapses, because literally the town was Pennywise. The episode is titled Pilot, which is a reference to Mike Hanlon's grandfather, Leroy, who is an Air Force pilot, who winds up moving to the Derry area with Mike's father and his wife, because he's going to be piloting this new Air Force craft they created for the Cold War. Mike's family are meant to be key characters during the series. Also the idea that the first episode of most TV series are referred to as pilots, like tests, to see if they're going to make the rest of the series. The actual opening scene is of Maddie Clements, who's a character from the books. He's a minor character, but one of the first characters that it winds up killing during this time period. They moved the timeline a little bit for the movies, so the movies are a little bit different from the books, just because of the way they changed the events. They wind up using the Music Man movie in this because that was released in real life in 1962. So like this is a brand new movie that has just come out that everybody's watching. They also use this opening scene of the movie itself with them chanting about trouble, the actual song about trouble with the context of the movie, because the character is subtly revealing himself as a predator come to take advantage of the town. Like he's basically showing his hand to the townsfolk, being kind of brazen. But it's also meant to be a metaphor for Pennywise the Clown coming to Derry to terrorize the town. Basically, the idea with this episode is it's meant to be the beginning of Pennywise's return in his 27-year cycles, so this is going to lead up to the 1963 year, which is like the last time that he appeared in Derry before the present day of the movies.
Mothers of River City, heed that warning before it's too late.
The usher winds up chasing him into the lobby where we meet a couple of new characters that weren't in the original novels. There are a couple of new characters they introduced for the series. And if it wasn't clear, it's meant to be the same movie theater that Richie spent all of his time in during the movies. There just weren't any arcades here because of the 1960s. Hank Rogan here works at the theater, seems like he owns or operates the place, and his daughter is named Ronnie, who winds up becoming one of the new Losers Club during this 1960s era. Like the kids are meant to be the 1960s version of the Losers Club. They reference that Maddie Clements' family sounds like they were abusive, which is also from the original novels, Part of the idea I think the series is going to dig deeper into is the influence that Pennywise has, basically making everybody in the town just act way, way darker, do terrible, terrible things, mostly to instill more chaos and fear in people, because another reference to the novels, he says he likes to sweeten the meat before he eats people. Even though you see Pennywise physically eat people, he actually consumes fear, so the more fear he instills in people, the more he actually gets to eat, which is why he tries to scare people, send them all these visions, or warp reality in some cases. Sometimes it's visions, but sometimes he actually warps reality, because he almost has a godlike control over time and space reality inside this localized space, the same way that, say, like Scarlet Witch did in the Marvel Universe inside the Hex. So think of Pennywise as operating the same way too, like he can teleport inside Derry, he can change reality at will. This is why some of the crazy stuff that the characters experience throughout the episode, seeing things, aren't just visions. Sometimes it's him sending them visions, sometimes Pennywise is like literally warping reality to make things do this. This is also one of the reasons why people outside the city limits of Derry are usually safe from Pennywise, because he has very, very limited to almost no control over things that happen outside of Derry. It's also one of the reasons why Pennywise doesn't leave Derry ever. He could leave if he wanted to, but he's so much more powerful here, and it's so easy for him here to eat people. Mike's slaughtering business during the IT movies is meant to be a whole metaphor for why Pennywise actually stays in Derry. For him, it's like shooting fish in a barrel every 27 years, then taking a nap for another 27 years. Like just wake up from a light nap, kill a couple fish in a barrel, then go back to bed. Very, very comfortable existence for Pennywise since he's been on Earth for millions of years. Because it's the first episode, there are also many references to how they'll eventually have to fight Pennywise or him just coming back in general. So for instance, we learned that Ronnie's mother's favorite movie is Auntie Mame, maybe using it as a metaphor for the series, for the characters learning that they have to enjoy their lives while they're still living, live life to the fullest, do not live in fear, because it's some of the messages of that movie, and it's what Pennywise wants. He wants everybody to be more fearful, so one of the ways that the Losers Club is actually able to defeat him is they face their fears, they overcome their childhood trauma and their fears to fight a psychic battle with him. So that's basically the key to defeating Pennywise. You can't kill him physically, but you can defeat him psychically. It's just that during the 1960s here, up to this point, the only people that have figured this out is that Native American tribe that Mike references during the events of the movies. We'll actually see them throughout the series too, in their battles with Pennywise. Maddie then runs out of the theater and gets picked up by people that say they're traveling to Portland with their family because he's trying to run away from home. He's basically trying to run away from Derry because Lily seemingly rejected him, even though she explains that it wasn't meant to be like that. He felt like it was a rejection, and his parents were abusive, so he's like, I'm getting out of town. Goodbye, everybody. Notice that he passes the Paul Bunyan sign on the Derry sign, which is an Easter egg for the original story, the giant Paul Bunyan statue that Pennywise animates to come after Richie. During the original book, it happened when he was a child. You start to hear the flies buzzing, the little girl starts acting all creepy and weird, fingering the liver, then trying to make him smell her fingers. It's Pennywise messing with all of them. So it's him warping reality here. This is actually happening. It's not just a vision that Maddie is experiencing. You remember, one of Pennywise's abilities is possession, so he possesses some of the family members at different points here. When they travel past the sign again, despite the fact that you've never seen the car turn or make any turns, the reason why they loop is because Pennywise is warping reality to make Maddie more afraid. Talking about vasectomies, making them smell her fingers, slut-shaming the daughter of their mother, this is all just Pennywise messing with them. So the idea here is that the wife really was pregnant. Pennywise makes her give birth to him, but just replaces the baby. So basically, it makes it seem like she's giving birth to him, but really, it's just Pennywise messing with everybody, re-emerging from his nap, so to speak, from the 27-year gap. I think the reason why he's appearing as this mutant baby with the wings is because the Muschiettis said they wanted to show Pennywise in many different forms because he didn't just take the clown form. That didn't happen until much later in his timeline. When he first crash landed on Earth, the form that he took was that of a giant bird. So I think they're just slowly referencing bits of that. But if it wasn't clear here, when the car is crashing, he kills everybody, starting with Maddie. The pacifier flying out the window is to let you know that this wasn't just division. Like, this was a real car, it was a real family, and Pennywise messed with all of them, then slaughtered all of them, including Maddie. His pacifier falls into the waterway, then they use that for the title transition as they travel through the drain because it heads to Pennywise's lair under the city. The kids will probably eventually find the remains of his pacifier, like, oh, this is Maddie's pacifier. Then they transition to the plane in the sky 4 months later when they say it's April 1962. This is still Pennywise in his early stages of coming out of hibernation. 1963 was when he was actually running around terrorizing people in his clown form. So part of the idea, they said that they wanted to make it seem like he was slowly coming out, like this is the prelude to Pennywise fully re-emerging, which he kind of does by the end of this episode. This person we meet first is Phil, who's tracking the plane movements over time. We see the Air Force Base on the edge of town. Part of the implication of the series is that the military knew about Pennywise or something adjacent, the mysterious force in Derry, not literally Pennywise maybe, but it sounds like they were aware of all the crazy stuff that was going on around the town that Pennywise was connected to going back to those 27-year cycles, and they're trying to find a way to weaponize it for the Cold War, so their Special Weapons Division, which they wind up teasing later in the episode. So part of the idea is the military is basically trying to weaponize Pennywise somehow. Then really big character in the canon here, we meet Mike Hanlon's grandfather, Leroy, who is the titular pilot where the episode gets its title from, and his friend Polly. There are a couple references to the Korean War, which they talk a little bit about later in Mike's grandfather's experience there. Mostly they just want to set him up as being like a really badass character. There's a little joke about them surviving the war, thinking that Derry is going to be nearly as bad. There are a lot of references to them not worried about Derry, like, oh, you want some normal life? We'll show you the normal life in the town here. When reality is that Pennywise is going to be so much worse than any war they could ever fight. When they mention SAC bases, that's Strategic Air Command, they were key military bases during the Cold War era that housed a lot of special weapons, nuclear missile deterrence, so the idea is this is meant to be an ultra-high security, very powerful base, very secretive, and as they say, the northernmost base, the closest one to the Soviet Union, so if shit goes down, this is the place where it's actually going to start.
As the northernmost continental United States Air Force base, we are the tip of the spear.
Also meant to be a reference to what's happening with Pennywise re-emerging, like, oh yeah, it's about to go down. Then another really big Stephen King universe Easter egg here. So the driver is Dick Hallorann from The Shining. He has the Shining ability. He'll be talking about that later during the series, the idea that he sees dead people, and he'll be one of the few people who actually believes the kids when they start talking about Pennywise, like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Part of the idea, though, at this point in his timeline, he hates the Vision, he hates his abilities, so he tries to ignore all this stuff. When Leroy says that he's moving his family here into Derry because he doesn't want a life on the base, obviously a bad call in retrospect. Being on the base here means that they're outside of the city limits, meaning that Pennywise doesn't have any real control here, so they're actually safe from Pennywise on the base. Then there are a couple really big Stephen King Easter eggs when they go back into town. Derry High School sign references Bert the Turtle, which is a reference to Maturin the Turtle, who's the avatar of God in the Stephen King universe. Bill sees him as a child during the ritual of Chud. So part of the idea here is the sign is meant to reference the turtle telling everyone to watch out for Pennywise, who is coming out of hibernation now in present day. But during the original It story, the turtle also gives Bill the advice for how to fight it for real. Like, fight him on a psychic level, fight Pennywise in your mind. Right after this moment, too, a couple of the characters walk right by the turtle again, and there are a couple more turtle references later in the episode, so a lot of turtle references to Maturin just in general. Maybe we will actually see the cosmic turtle in his true form at some point during the series. That would actually be pretty cool. We meet most of this 1960s version of the Losers Club here at school. So we start with Lily and Marge, who winds up having visions of Maddie. She's the most connected to him, like his closest friend. When Teddy and Phil are talking about not being alone in the universe, it's also a reference to Pennywise not being from this universe. Pennywise is the visitor from another planet in this metaphor. There are a lot of references to that. Also, Teddy is meant to be a Urus. I think he's meant to be Stan's uncle because his father is named Donald Urus, so I think he's the older brother that we meet later in the episode at their house, and their father is Stan's grandfather. They're a little bit wrong, though, when they say that the Air Force has it on ice. The Air Force does not literally have Pennywise on ice, but they are investigating the phenomena around Derry X-Files style. When they go back to the Air Force Base, the woman in the devil outfit on the plane felt kind of a reference to the Crimson King, who is also the overarching antagonist for the entire Stephen King universe. He's like the Thanos of the Dark Tower series. I don't expect to ever actually see him during this series. He's meant to be way more powerful than Pennywise. He's also from the same alternate dimension that Pennywise comes from, too. When Leroy meets his squad here, one of them gets a little racist. He might be part of the racist cult that gets tied up in the lore during it across the timeline. There's like this racist cult in the background that shows up across different eras. James Remar shows up. He's playing General Shaw, who's in command of this entire base, this entire region. Then the reason why we get another ominous look from Dick Hallorann is because of his ability. He knows what's really going on with Pennywise in the area. Like, he just knows that things are bad around Derry. Like, this is a bad place and bad things are about to happen again. We go back to Teddy and Phil. There are a couple of jokes about the peep show next door. The Space Cadet comics, I think, are also a reference to the original It Pennywise story, where Bill literally winds up going into space and traveling to the Todash darkness dimension. There's also a creature from the Black Lagoon poster, another reference to Pennywise in his original dimension. We'll talk about some of the other Easter eggs in his room later, because there are a couple of specific comic books too, like DC Comics references, but that's something different. Also, a little side detail here too, that Scotty is like Phil's arch nemesis because he's prevented him from seeing boobs next door on multiple occasions. Like, damn you, Scotty! We actually learned that Teddy is actually trying to be a comic book artist here. The picture that he's drawing is another reference to it. The spaceship is a metaphor for the asteroid that brought Pennywise here. They start to reference Maddie's disappearance because they all start having visions of Maddie later. When we go to Lily in the bathroom, all this, the bathtub scene, her hearing Maddie in the drain, all feels like callbacks to Beverly experiencing similar things during the It movies. She flashes back to an experience she had with Maddie. We learn why she was connected to him, and takes her to the boys' hangout on the rooftop where we just saw Phil in the planes, and they also go later in the episode, which overlooks the entire town. This is also meant to be a callback to the Losers Club secret base that they built together. There's another Maturin Turtle reference with Maddie's figure. Turtles being lucky, that she says, also implies that there was some low-level protection that Maddie had until he gave her the figure, so maybe he would not have died had he kept it with him. That also might be the reason why she's one of the few people who is not killed inside the movie theater when it goes crazy on them, because she had the turtle with her. We learn a little bit more about her backstory. She was actually sent to a hospital briefly because of trauma that she experienced over the circumstances of her father's death, who died in what sounds like a Pennywise-induced accident. Something about climbing into gears that were still grinding, which makes it sound like he died a very, very painful, horrible death, which sounds like classic Pennywise. She starts hearing Maddie in the Music Man movie Inside the Drain, which is something similar to what Beverly experienced. And when he says, "He won't let me come home," that's Pennywise, but the idea is that Pennywise is actually making her hear this. So really this is just Pennywise just messing with her, making her as afraid as possible, because he's trying to spice her up before he consumes her. All the kids start meeting up and talking about the visions of Maddie. He's not actually still alive, like they're not seeing the live version of Maddie trying to escape. This is Pennywise just messing with them. Leroy then meets with General Shaw again, who explains to him the Special Weapons Division and the bomber that he wants him to fly for the Cold War here, basically setting up the idea that he's going to be learning more about this special, secret, dark stuff that they're investigating that's connected to Pennywise. Then we meet the rest of Teddy's family, the Shaws. Remember, this is Stan's grandfather's family. This is probably Donald, his father. Teddy having his bar mitzvah during these events is also a callback to Stan going through something similar during the original It movie. We learned that Teddy's grandparents escaped a concentration camp, which they use as a metaphor for Pennywise's lair, hell on earth basically, but also an example of how this can all be real. When he gets pissed off at him finding his Flash comic book, this is one of two big DC Comics Easter eggs during the series. Andy Muschietti, who did the series and the It movies, also directed the Flash movie, even though a lot of people hated the Flash movie. Later, we see them reading the Batman comic book, which is the first appearance of Clayface. The reason for that specific issue of Detective Comics in Clayface is because of the year this is taking place in context, like the comic was published then, and there's a Clayface movie coming out next year. You also notice that he sees an ad for Superman in here. It's a copy of the real-life version of the comic book, so like this is all real. Also the idea that just like Clayface, Pennywise changes his appearance at will. Pennywise then starts messing with him by turning the light off, makes him see the human skin lampshade, which is a callback to what his grandfather said about the human lampshades, but it's meant to be Maddie's face. Then the Losers Club meets up again, and Lily references Juniper Hill, the hospital that she was sent to after her father passed away. I think the idea is that Dick Hallorann, because he has the shining ability, he can see all the stuff that's happening, he knows what's really happening. He will be like the first person who legit believes everything they say. Lily takes them to the library to research, just like Ben did during the movies. They also use the old newspapers, probably to eventually reference the old history of Derry, weird things that have happened during Pennywise's 27-year cycles. That leads them to Ronnie, and they learn that Pennywise has been sending her visions too.
What song was he singing?
There's another newspaper that references the Paul Bunyan statue that the town is about to build, which will eventually terrorize Richie later during the events of the movies. We get a picture of Leroy's family with his wife and son. This is meant to be Mike's father, who we know from the movies died in a fire at some point with his mother later in the timeline as adults. Maybe something to do with Pennywise as well. It's implied that Pennywise is connected to pretty much all the terrible things that happen in the town. When he gets attacked by the people in the masks outside his window, that's not meant to be Pennywise. They're implying that they're Soviet spies that are trying to get intel on the American bomber, so they're just meant to be random dudes, like random spies from the Soviet Union. I think this is meant to be a bit of a red herring. I don't think that this event had anything to do with Pennywise because the base is outside the city, and Pennywise doesn't really mess with stuff outside the city. Then the Losers Club goes to the theater. Pennywise messing with them while they were watching the projector reel is a callback to the same thing happening to the losers during the events of the movies, them seeing the visions of Maddie in the movie. Also, you notice the girl standing next to him in the movie here is the little girl from the family who Pennywise also killed. That baby he's holding is meant to be Pennywise, just in a different form. It's just meant to be him showing his dramatic flair. Pennywise just having fun with them, making them as afraid as possible because he then tries to eat all of them, with the exception of Lily, like I said, maybe because she had the turtle charm protecting her. I've not seen any other episodes besides this, so it seems like Pennywise killed everybody except for Lily and Ronnie, like they're the only two survivors of what just happened here. There are a lot of Easter eggs and references during the episode, so if you spotted any that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments. But the next episode will air on Friday early because it's Halloween, so big reminder, episode 2 on Friday. What I'll do is I'll just wait to see how this video performs, and if people are really down for it, really like the series, then I'll continue doing episode videos week to week throughout the season. HBO released a season trailer with footage from the rest of all the episodes, or most of the episodes. It seems like we're looking at the Native American tribe, and we'll get into the history of their fights with Pennywise across the timeline, some more Pennywise lore through them. There are a couple references of Dick Hallorann talking to Leroy, referencing his shining ability, seeing dead people. So there's just more Stephen King mythology that they're dipping into episode to episode. I don't think we'll actually see Pennywise in full clown form till about midway through the season, though. So the other forms of Pennywise will be showing up episode to episode, but you will know that it's Pennywise when he shows up. There's a bunch of stuff coming up this week too. I'm trying to do videos for everything. Click here for my new Night of the Seven Kingdoms Game of Thrones trailer, and click here for all my IT and Welcome to Derry episode videos. I'll update the links as soon as I post more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.